Hello YouTube, Infinite Magicraid community, Gandolf here. We got a little bit of a different setup today, and I thought I'd take you behind the scenes into, how I actually go ahead and build my 5v5 teams, or any teams in general. I used to do this a lot. Back in a time, a lot of people would send me like their hero pool, and I'll end up building their classic arena team, their 3v3 team, as well as their 5 versus 5 team. And hopefully in this video you get a sense of the thought process, as well as get some ideas for yourself in terms of how you can take a look at your own hero pool and go through the process of building out the most optimal teams you can. The first thing I usually do is, again, I prefer to do this on the computer in Paint, just have all my heroes easily moved around. And the main reason for that is just simply it's easier than the interface I actually find in the game. And what I like to do is group up heroes that have strong synergies together with one another. So for example, if you're going to run a team with Mumu and Indra, the two of them got to go together on a team, right? In previous videos, I talked about how Willa and Giselle has this natural combo which allow the enemy to be immediately poisoned on their turn, then Willa will be able to go, right? When it comes to, if you happen to have an Airtoe goes really well with ways that you can knock the enemy HP below a certain threshold, so that you can really combo very well with her passive, or that cause all the procs to happen. So usually I like to run something like Atkins, or run Showering with it, because the counterattack quickly knocks someone down or out. Likewise with Atkins, be able to proactively hit them on their turn. Right, there's a few different setups you can do that. For example, if you happen to have Allcaster or Nizo or any sort of setup like that, having Santa to run perma-freeze, it's also another theme. So trying to build your hero teams together is kind of the thought process here. I would then go through making sure that here in this example we're doing is I'm trying to optimize my 5s team, because I really haven't taken a look at it for a while now. You should also have like a group of heroes that kind of fit well in almost any team. So here, Panda, Muron, Wukong, Nordak, a lot of these heroes are really good. Some of them synergize more perhaps on a tanky and bulky team, but in general they offer, they're treated kind of like either additional survivability or tech options. They work really well together. What you really want to do is just figure out, on each one of your teams, figure out what's the win condition. So for example, I'm going to build a team around Airtoe because the win condition is, her proccing and killing everyone, right? Giselle is a win condition on her own just because how broken she is. Damu and Indra is going to take double turns, so Indra is going to get 2 kills off the bat. There's certain heroes that synergize really well with it. For example, I'm going to put Ben Austin probably on this team. That there's great synergy to it, so I'll build around that a little bit. Ben Austin works really well with Allcaster Santa as well. So I'm going to have a real hard pick between the two in terms of which one to pick, because Allcaster usually isn't fast enough to go. But if you have Ben Austin joint attack, you can get Allcaster to go really quickly. That's another option. So that works really well on perma-freeze team. So there's a few different setups there. Then you look at, what are some of the other win conditions. So some of you might have been lucky and rerolled for a Lance. Lance will go really well together with any sort of, nuking option. Lance can also be a trigger condition for Airtoe. We see that in endgame teams a lot. We'll see what we end up with. And then here you just need to pick out a couple. I still need one last team. So let's just say, I want to build a team around. I think I want to build a team around. Like I have other DPS, right? Like there's a lot of heroes that people can potentially run, right? Like you can have a win condition around Had, right? Like a classic speed cleave. That works really well. Moshi is kind of a strip into a nuke. Like I think Had's damage is higher than Moshi in my mind in terms of if we just purely look at the multipliers. So that's kind of an option if you happen to have either one of them. And the way you enable these attack-based damage dealers is you, of course, run it with either, for example, a more Expensive build with limited heroes will be something like Lydia into Big Jack is one good option. The benefit of this is you instantly get a turn, and Big Jack can be turn meter reduced. A more free-to-play friendly is seeing, if you happen to roll a Wrister, you can run, space into Wrister and then into the nuke. So this kind of gives you a few different ideas, and this is kind of how I'm going to start building out and filling out my teams a little bit. I will probably end up with going with yeah, I think the synergy we'll decide what to do with this team here in the middle in just a sec, because yes, there's definitely synergy with the setup. You can run a very fast DMU, and a lot of people do that. We'll decide on that probably last in terms of, what's our fifth team, what we're going to run with. And I would say, when you're running 5 teams, I would definitely plan out to kind of have 3 most optimal teams you can. And then, a fourth one, and then, the weakest one is just whatever you can find from your remaining heroes. Because often, what you'll find is, having 3 dedicated teams that are really strong just makes your overall setup a lot easier, as long as you don't jeopardize, your last 2 teams too much. Feels kind of something to say there. Okay, so let's say Lance can be CC'd, right? So it's actually better to pair up your Lance with Big Jack. We see that combination quite a bit. So I'm going to do something like this. And I'm also going to put Morikis into this team just because, so you have a backup DPS. If one of them get targeted by, say, Decora, get targeted by, Atkins, whatever, you still have a backup option to nuke into. So this is a really kind of a good setup. And then your 5th hero could be anything works. You can run a Muro in there. You can run Nordak in there. You can run Wukong, Muro, anything in that last slot. So that's kind of a flex slot. I find, having some sort of counter option, I think this is really good for my first team in terms of what's the core to it. I'm going to run a core around this. Now, having a Willa Giselle opens up to a few different opportunities. Like if you happen to have Penny at exclusive too. I don't have it yet. But Penny, and then plus 2 more control heroes in here. So for example, the 2 newest heroes, right? Like you can put in, there's quite a few heroes, like a whole bunch of things working here. Like you can put, do I have Ronai here? No, I don't have Ronai built on this account. Ronai could work here. I think she's in the upcoming banner this week, right? You can get Ronai. Actually, for benefits, probably best to just bring her onto the screen here. I don't have her built, but I do think I have her. So why not just have her in the list here? All right, so like Ronai here is a good option. If you have Nazil, I don't have a Nazil, but let's grab a Nazil so that people can quickly recognize it. Nazil shows up on a lot of events, so he's a frequent pick. Like Nazil E1 is great on this team. So like this, because you have 3 open slot, like you can build it this way. You can also build it easily, just by sticking in any of the other heroes that will help survive, help tank. You already have attack up, so just look for things that synergize with it. Like for example, anything that slows down, Beatrix will work, Santa will work on this team, right? Like I would definitely see myself, if I had Penny at E2, to build it around control, but I don't. So I'm probably going to build it a little bit differently here. I feel like I'm going to build it probably like knowing that we're going to see a control heavy meta. Like this is kind of anti-control, right? Because Big Jack Lance is anti-CC. The first one, Shaolin can't be CC'd. Aerito cleanses immediately if enemy target is below 25% health. So, and Atkins is also very hard to CC. So there's a lot of great synergy in that particular lineup. Like they scale off of HP, so I'm I'm tentative to say that, hey, I want to run it kind of like this. I put Panda and Nordak with this first team because a lot of it scales off of HP, and you know, this gives you a kind of nice open setup. You want to, if you have an E2 Panda, that's perfect. E3 even better. But if you have E1 or E0, you want your Panda faster than your Nordak, or at least 90% of the speed of Nordak, so that, you know, you cover it from a cleanse perspective. So that's a really good setup there for my first team. So this is kind of how you're starting to get your team together a little bit, right? Here for this team here, Muron can't be CC'd. Muron will work well here or here. I think in this particular situation, I'm kind of tempted to do this, and just simply because, you know, sometimes in the matchups you will run into, they will stack all of their heroes together. So if I can do something like this, probably make this my strongest team, and this will probably synergize really well in my mind, which kind of leaves a little bit of a flex option in terms of what I can put over here. There aren't that many good options in my mind. I mean, at this point, there are ways to do bait teams, right? So for example, this one. So if I'm going for pure damage, and this actually works really well because I just happen to have a popper over here, right? And what you can do is, because on purpose I didn't level up my popper fully. I probably should have kept it at level 1, honestly. The reason why is popper on death just stuns, right? Exclusive 1. So even War of Throne, which is where we're going to test our teams shortly, has a mechanic that if you have the slowest hero, it will actually be you will instantly die and trigger any effects it has. So, you know, popper will definitely work here. You can run in War of Throne. You can actually run a E3 Rumble for that effect as well on death. So that works actually pretty well. So we're gonna probably just stick the popper over there. Now we're left with a couple of teams. In my mind, here is where, you know, we can probably build something around this, where space into Rister, that's already, like if you have E3 space, that's even better. But E2, you just need your Rister to be a bit faster, but that's kind of like your speed cleave option. This is the highest speed. You can run probably Moshi with it. It is a good choice if you want to guarantee to be able to strip. I think, you know, this is a good option to go with that. Then there's a couple of follow-up, right? You can follow up with another turn booster, like for example, because a lot of us probably end up building Judge Lu, right? And Judge Lu will synergize well with any hero from the Sega City faction. You can run another turn meter buff, so it goes right after. So you kind of allow your Moshi to take like a triple turn as long as you speed tune it properly. That's kind of an interesting way of thinking about it. You can definitely run this with focus if you have focus. I'll just put a focus here on the screen as well, just in case for some of our viewers who are not familiar with all the hero names yet. Like you can run it over here. You can run focus over here. You can run another Bisiden if you want. Like there's a lot of heroes that is a really good enabler that allows you to just quickly take, you know, one additional turn. If you don't have, you know, just put any solid damage dealer. Early game, you can use Milosh. You in theory could run it. You know, you can in theory run it with Had. For those of you who have Had, all of these options work really well. And I think my last team, I'm probably going to run with, like in this option, in this team setup, I might actually think about, just from a bait perspective, right? Like sometimes it's hard to figure out, you know, what is the last hero you kind of run on somebody's team. The speed cleave meta, like in end game, definitely isn't working very well right now because of how bulky teams are, and of course there's so many mechanics that prevents you on death, right? So you can play advantage to that. I'm probably running, I think given the, what we're seeing right now is, in order to kill effectively, I'm probably going with this. I'm going to go with this, Catherine to go with Ben Austin, just so that Ben Austin goes first a bit. We're going to Damu Indra into people, so turn meter reduce or joint attack works really well with that. And the last hero that synergizes probably with this group really well. There's a few. I mean, Agatha I think works well in this setup actually, because Agatha has a nice joint attack with the group, and our Agatha E3 now has a revive as well, right? So just in case anybody end up dying or the enemy ends up with a lot of shield, we can quickly steal it. The joint attack with Ben Austin will easily, get a kill. I mean, do I like it? No, I don't really like it, to be honest. I do like the CC setup. Like, if you don't have Damien Andrew and you happen to have Allcaster, like, this will work really well. Like, this will work well on a CC kind of team as well, because you can play into anti-CC there. So I think we're pretty set. Let's go and test some of these teams out. And we'll build these team out in War of Throne, and let's see how well they perform. All right, let's switch over to the other screen. All right, we're back from all of that editing, and now we probably have the right speed tune, and let's get right into these battles and see how well we do. In War of Throne, you don't really get to switch your team around, so we'll see how things play out in the grand scheme of things, and we'll do a little bit of commentary around it. So first one we won 16 out of 9. In terms of matchup, right, the first team, this doesn't actually play very well into the Giselle setup, I guess. The counterplay here, I guess, this is possibly a consideration where, the speed, not having Atkins didn't help, but I believe by having Atkins on our speed team, it didn't really help either, I guess. I thought, okay, let's see how that one played out. I would have imagined the third team would have won against the third team, but let's see what happened there. Was it just not enough damage? Didn't. Okay, so yeah, we got our turn meter good. Wait, hold on. Why didn't my Moshi go? Hold on. Something weird happened there. Was it the Willa? I think it was the double turn against the Willa. Willa stopped it. Yeah, that was annoying. So I guess that's the downside of Richter, because Richter takes double turns. But other than that, it worked really well against his last few teams. Yeah, it wouldn't have. It's too squishy, and it would have died to the last team. And here, the last team again. The last two teams are a little bit weak. Their first two teams are a little bit better built, and that's often the case in 5 versus 5 where you're not. But what's nice is our last two teams beat all of their last two teams. So that's the general trend. People tend to have their classic arena teams build really strong at the beginning. Let's go for another one. Okay, so this one they have much higher power, but let's see how well we play out. And we lost 10 to 15, okay, against Finto. So our first team did okay. Their teams are a little bit more balanced across all of them. Yeah, this didn't play out well. So I'm thinking like maybe need to move things around a little bit. I'm surprised this team didn't... I'm surprised. I would have expected the popper stun would have come through, Maybe what we should do is go to Popper and just make sure the Popper the second set, we have a little bit more effective hit on him. Let's watch this one. What should have happened is Popper went straight up and exploded. Yeah, Popper should have exploded right away. Yeah, but everyone resisted. Now, what I would have expected at this point in time, my Lance would have hit him hard enough, but for whatever reason, oh right, because yeah, Ronai will outspeed Jack and Roll, unfortunately, and Hypnosis isn't immune, right? So we did get the first attack in. Those do hit very hard, so that unfortunately did not work well for us. Okay. Okay, so this should be an easy one. We got 26 points off of that. That was a 19.6. But we now pushed into the promotion range. Okay, so this is someone tougher. And you can see their teams are a lot more built out. So, but we still won. Our teams are relatively against Yami. So our first few teams won across the board. What Yami ended up doing is his first two teams are a lot more stacked, in my mind. But this overall, like this played out in my favor. I think having Giselle and Muron on the same team here. Let's watch the first one, because I think the first one here is an interesting one. I'm a little bit surprised at the result on that first one. I guess partly because, I have a little bit more tankiness to it, simply because I have both Santa and as well as Muron here. So I was able to tank through the damage. So Lydia, CC. Got my stuns on him. Yeah. So this is where Santa playing through. Yeah. Okay. So kind of explains it now. The Aerito died quite early, and it was just over from there. So sometimes you do need that tankiness. So I can't wait until this Wukong goes to E3, and this team will be like just dominating across the board. This team also did really well. I ended up probably stunning him majority of the time. So this one, and the last two teams aren't built as well. So his last team is a little bit weak, simply because honestly, what I find strange is his last team. Like, yeah, what happened? Am I just faster than him? Like, I think I'm just faster than him. That's what happened. But he has Atkins in there. He would have gotten the turn meter. Yep, but I guess. Yep, Moshi happened. Okay. So that went well. We'll do a couple more. We only have a couple more left. Okay, so this player, much lower strength overall team. There's one Giselle in here of note, but rest of the teams looks relatively weak. So you can see that second team is really dominating. I'm probably contemplating like most people are still running some sort of space team, but if you are confident that you have a faster space, do you really need a secondary wind condition? Maybe the answer is no. Which then gives you a little bit more option in thinking about how you can set up a team like this. Like here, you could, in theory, like do something a little bit more different here too. Like in theory, you can actually switch these two spots as well, right? Put space on the last one, put Catherine here. If your wrister is fast enough, but of course my wrister isn't that fast. But overall, I think this should be an easy win as well. And you can see a lot of wins across the top. So the teams are relatively well built here. All right, we have two last attacks to go through. Okay, this looks like a relatively straightforward win as well. And we will go with one last one. Okay, so this is someone who's stronger by a lot. But just by looking at the teams, right? The first two teams are relatively stacked, but the last two teams are really poorly built. So I think we should have a well advantage. It depends on how fast they are, right? This is, again, a speed cleave team that take advantage of Johnny in place of Alec. I do believe we should have a win here, though. No? Ooh, I lost a lot more than I thought. Oh, okay, never mind. Then it's losing due to stats. Tom is, yeah, I would have expected. Yeah, the stats there is what got me. But nonetheless, I hope this was helpful in terms of showing kind of like at least the thought process around how you build your team, right? Like really see the synergy, build your team around a couple of core units, then fill the remaining slots. Make sure you have like 5. You want to look for win condition. Like if you analyze your team, there should be a win condition in all of them. Like DMU Indra is my win condition here, right? Moshi is my win condition here, right? Like Lance, and then here is Giselle, and the first one is Eruto. So make sure you build your teams that way, and you should be able to do really fine. All right, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Gandolf out.